behavior all across the world in many cultures. And I do that by studying emerging technologies. I look at design, I look at science, and the objective here is really to develop branding and marketing campaigns for our clients. But with that, that's my professional interests. Today, my personal interest that I'm combining with this talk is the area of curiosity. I've just completed a master's degree in curiosity. I spent 2.5 years looking at consumer behavior in the world of curiosity, and I'm combining culture and consumer behavior and curiosity because I believe that there's a trend that the retail industry might be very interested to know about and tap into. So I'm going to divide my presentation into 4 parts, very simply. The first, I'm going to talk about curiosity and what it is briefly. Second, I'm going to then talk about retail trends, which is feeding the curious consumer. I'll then talk about what I'm seeing from a data perspective on an increase in, if you will, curious consumers in the marketplace, specifically in Asia. And then finally, I'm going to give you some very tangible takeaways, some marketing, if you will, tools that you can use to tap this curious consumer. So moving right along, I'm going to go fast and furious, so I'm hoping you're going to be curious, okay? By the way, my entire presentation will be available online, so you don't have to take notes, and I also have a handout afterwards which summarizes the key points for today's presentation. So let's begin. Curiosity. Starting off with curiosity, what is it? Just to make sure we're on the same page here, it's about asking questions, understanding your environment, who, what, why, where, when, how, these kinds of questions. It's also, it's connected to interest. And so clearly in the retail environment, we want to make sure that the consumer is interested in the products that we're selling. But there's some interesting facts about curiosity that I discovered in my research. First of all, curiosity is a mood and it's a state of mind. It's also not tied to IQ in any way. So that's usually a shocker. Most people are surprised to learn about that. And it can be taught. It's learnable. And finally, or actually the last 2 points are that it's both addictive and it's contagious. So that's why when people get into Sudoku or you're getting into a cliffhanger, you can't get out of it. You're almost you're stuck in the cycle of the curiosity cycle. And if you surround yourself with curious people, you become more curious. And there's good news about being curious because you live longer. You have basically better relationships. There's a direct relationship to being curious and having more healthy relationships. You're able to cope with your changes better if you have a more curious disposition. And lastly, and more importantly, it's tied to happiness in life and life satisfaction. So curiosity is a great emotion or a mental state that, as whether we're humans or whether we're marketers, we certainly want to be able to tap into that. So moving along, in my world of trend watching and looking at consumer behavior, often it's a chicken and egg. It's like what causes and what's the correlation and causation of a certain kind of consumer behavior. And I have to be very frank here and say that I'm not sure what's causing it or whether this is an effect. But I can say that in the past 2 decades, we have had an overwhelming influx of data. We are living in a data-rich world, which we call big data, like never before. 20 years ago, we weren't able to Google and search content like we are today, 24/7. And with that, we have devices. We carry devices around with us that are connected to the internet. And so we have access to data at 24/7. And even separate from that, devices that present data in new ways, from tablets to OLED screens to even screens in the around. We have immersive technology today which presents information in new and interesting ways. I mean, I even put in examples here of video cameras and drones that take pictures, and that's new forms of data, if you will, content creation. And along with that, we have new ways of visualizing data. In the past, I'd say a decade or so, we have made leaps and bounds in how we look at information. And this is piquing our curiosity and also feeding our interest in looking at data in new ways. We zoom in and we zoom out like never before. We are able to take nano photography at the atomic level. We are able to look at photography in the 360 degrees. As you know, you can have a camera on the nose of an airplane. We're able to, with litro-photography, which is actually the top second column there, that actually captures all of the information in a picture that allows you to infinitely zoom in or zoom out of a photograph. And these are huge strides, and that's actually just within the past couple of years. And then we've also, with technology, analyzed data and connect the dots with data in new ways. So with data visualization tools that mapping content in 3 dimensions, this is really presenting us information, a way of us to connect the dots and look at information in new ways. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with infographics, how we present information in a graphical form today. I mean, even in the left column, the furthest column to the right, sorry, you're right, is infographic of a particular brand, but even resumes now. People's CVs are now being presented in infographic format. And with that comes media. Now, I'm not sure whether the media is following the consumer demand or whether it's creating an interest in curiosity, but we have a lot of media today that's focused on how things work. We have books, we have entire TV channels and cable stations dedicated to how things work, process focused, on where did the product come from, how was it manufactured, what were the processes involved. And we have YouTube channels and educational channels on the internet that allow us to understand the processes behind brands. And I just want to say, from a design perspective, I use this bookcase as an example. Okay, we're in an era of curiosity, but we're also surrounded, our environment, we're surrounded by curious design. A bookcase is traditionally upright like this and shelves. But today, you can get bookcases in every possible myriad of curious designs that are very imaginative and pique us. Now, does this environment change the way we think, or is this a result of our curiosity?